What's up, guys? I'm Dave Dunsire, and today we're going to be taking a look at the highly anticipated Neural DSP Quad Cortex. The Neural DSP Quad Cortex has been a highly anticipated piece of gear that's been talked about over the last year, and I'm super excited because I've finally had a chance to get my hands on it and put it through its paces. I myself, primarily a studio musician now, and I work in the box most of the time. I'm not really the amp in the room guy. I live in plugin land and software, which is why I've known about Neural DSP for a very long time. I love their plugins. I've been using them consistently since they came out. And for myself, the one thing that I've always struggled with was processing power with my computer. So my issue is I'm running tons of plugins and MIDI that tend to bog down my processor. So you have to play kind of the buffer dance where you're switching back and forth to be able to manage the kind of more intensive plugins with mixing and mastering and performing, which is why the Quad Cortex speaks to me so much, because it gives me the ability to use all of the plugin sounds that I've really grown to love, completely latency free, and have a lot of these really unique advantages with the system that Neural has created. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the presets that I've kind of made and developed over the last week or so. And I'm going to take you through building a preset that I would use for my music. So let's get into like a modern metal rhythm tone. The track you heard at the beginning was one I recorded using all Quad Cortex sounds along with Get Good drums, and really that was it. You know, there's two kind of like medium gain rhythm guitars panned hard left and hard right, as well as a bass tone, and then obviously my drum sounds. So for the rhythm tone, I built this preset after firing up the Quad Cortex first. So if we look through the chain, it starts out with Neural DSP's adaptive gate, which I actually really preferred over some of the other gate options. So if we go into change device here, you have 4 different gates. Originally I started with the utility gate. And the utility gate gives you a lot more control over the noise gate, so it gives you a little bit more of an in-depth dive on kind of how that gate is going to clamp down. I've actually found that the adaptive gate worked so much better for what I was doing, and it's kind of similar to what they have in their plugins already. So I set that at about 30%. You know, if we were to bypass it, so we have a little bit of hiss going on, bypass that again. Even then, I could probably roll this up a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Even if we have like a little bit of like a ground noise or a little bit of interference, this gate can go up fairly high without really choking your sound. There we go. So we're all the way up at 61% on the noise gate, and it hasn't really affected the ability to play kind of any of those more technical riffs. Jumping in next, we have an 808, so the notorious green pedal. Everyone has one or has had one. And I kind of set this the way I would normally set like an Ibanez TS-808 or a Maxon 808, where you've got the level pushed all the way up. Tone is kind of a little over noon, overdrive kind of set to taste. And I found that definitely kind of has that standard Ibanez 808 sound. So without it, a little undefined, a little bit more chunky. So with that 808, it just gives it a little bit more cut, allows it to just kind of edge through the mix a little bit more. So jumping into the amp section, we have a, what they call the PV505 lead. We can kind of guess what that is, in like the 5150 territory, which is the only amp that I actually own. I've had a block letter. I found one on my birthday, which is really cool. I usually tend to set my gain kind of a little bit lower, around 6 to 7 o'clock, 7 to 8 o'clock, depends on the amp. And what's great too is that gain's only at 3.5, and we have the gate pretty high up, and we still have tons of playability, and we have a very punchy sound overall. I've got the treble boosted a little bit. These pickups tend to be voiced a little bit darker, so I tend to boost my presence or my treble a little bit, and that's kind of like just where I want them to be. But if we were to jump through and kind of explore some of the other amp sounds, there's 50 different amps in here so far. I find that I really liked the plexi sounds for my leads. They have kind of a nice little bit of breakup, and I tend to reach for more of the metal sound, so everything from your EVH 5153 red channel to your D-Cell or maybe Diesel Herbert, which tend to be a little bit more kind of lower mid, a little bit bass heavy, but when you EQ them right with the right cab, they punch super hard. And then you have things like your Freeman 100. So I found that the 5150 just totally works for my rhythm sound and what I'm normally doing. Next, the cab section. So one of the things that I really loved about the Quad Cortex was just how easy it was to mess with the cab impulses and really kind of just dial in the sound. I've never really used a touchscreen interface before on anything like this. There's a few products that exist out in the marketplace, but this really spoke to me. One cool fact is that the impulses that are in the stock library were all made by Adam Nolly Getgood, who is a producer. He was the bass player for Periphery, and so he has made all these IRs. And so a lot of these are amplifiers that I would typically look for as well. I picked the Zilla Custom V30. It's labeled V2, so it's a 412 cab. Zilla is made over in the UK, and they're really great sounding cabs. I also really like, your standard Mesa rectifier cab. I like the oversized version. It's a little bit just bigger sounding in the room. So they have these OS for oversized. And they have the 90s version, which is really aggressive. So I actually would say the 90s version probably would work a little bit better for a little bit more of that overdriven, kind of punchier distortion sound. So we have a great sounding cab already. What more can we do to change the sound? So inside of the cab block, we have the 57 and the Ribbon 160 selected. Maybe we'll want to change the mic position a little bit. So depending on kind of what sound you're going for, and especially I find with heavily distorted guitars, you tend to either go right off the cone edge or right off the center cap. And usually with two microphones on a cabinet, I tend to do one off the cap and one off the cone edge. So the 57 right now is kind of off the cap, and the Ribbon right now is a little bit off the edge. You kind of noticed as we started to move that further away, it got a little bit more bass heavy, so it might be something we have to account for when we're EQing. So that works kind of there. I kind of like how that sounds overall. Another really cool thing, something that I found that I really enjoyed when using the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, was the ability to use an actual parametric EQ, which is just a super, super nifty thing. If I'm in production mode and I'm trying to work quickly and efficiently, I know that I'm going to have to cut off a bunch of that low end. It's not going to sit in my mix. It might sound good in the room, but overall, your kick drum and your bass have to live somewhere. So if I need to, I can just chop off, 80 hertz right there, or maybe go up all the way up to 120. Really depends on the mix, but we know we're going to get rid of that low end at some point. And if I want to be more specific, I can raise and lower that with the rotary knobs that are equipped on the Cortex. Super, super excellent design choice. So there we go. We have, kind of like an already EQ'd guitar tone that would work a little bit better in the mix. Another thing that I typically do is I notch out the 4K frequency a little bit. That kind of boxy frequency that ends up just not fitting and interrupting some of our other instruments. So we do have the ability to change the shapes of these as well and kind of move those back and forth. And you can go through and select different bands, and we can add up to 8, which is very, very efficient. So if I select 3, we can change the Q shape. So maybe I want to make it a lot thinner of a Q. Adjust this to about 4. And then I'm just going to pull that down. And one way to kind of hear what that frequency can be doing in the mix is to actually just push it up, make it. So if we pull that 4K frequency down, that's going to sit, guitar tone's going to sit a lot better. And overall, that's awesome. So jumping to another preset, as I always look for kind of like a airy, medium, low gain lead tone. One of the tracks that I put out recently, that's kind of like one of the main lead tones that I like to use, to be able to jump from like something that's slightly pushed to completely overdriven lead. So I built this lead tone, called it the Hermes lead. Have tons and tons of beautiful reverb and delay. I really like the delays and reverbs that are built into here right now. There's not a ton of them yet. Right now there's about 30 effects, but what's there is really quality. If you're familiar with some of Neural DSP's other plugins like Archetype Plenty, Archetype Abasi, Archetype Nolly, they have amazing effects built in to some of those signature plugins, and they're really, really good. That's something that I've definitely been impressed with, because you can get a lot of great guitar amps and plugins, but building one that has delays and reverbs takes a lot of work. I have a ping pong delay that I've got in parallel right here, and we can adjust the mix. So I can kind of get that more exaggerated effect, but I like to kind of keep it around like 50-60%. And then I have this cave reverb, which I've got set to about a 20-second decay. It's just super expansive. As far as the cab, we're doing the Zilla Custom V30 again. It's got like kind of a nice full tone. I'm using the British Plexi 100 Bright. I found that, it's not too gainy, but it's got just the right amount of breakup. It's got a good push to it. And I'll even bypass the reverb and delay to kind of show what it sounds like on its own. It's got a really good sound to it. It's got kind of a nice chime, kind of reminiscent of plexi tone. And then in front, I'm running a VCA compressor just to kind of bring up kind of all those other notes, just kind of add a little bit of extra push there. And then I'm running the adaptive gate at 30%. Now, let's make our own preset. We'll go through and we'll make kind of maybe a clean tone, go all the way up to create new. And we start here with, just your input and your output. So nothing. Something, but nothing. So I'll probably start with my amp block. For clean tones, I usually reach for more of the Fender category. So maybe we go with a USA Deluxe vibrato. Now there's no cab block there yet, so it sounds a little dry. So let's go for a 212. Let's go for the US Twin C12. With the Deluxe vibrato, we don't have any gain, just bass, treble, and output. So let's add a reverb, because we have to add reverb. So we're going to go for this guy right here. So, ambience is not my favorite. Cave is definitely the way. So we'll adjust that decay time. I don't think I need to change anything there. So from there, some things that I like to do with clean tone is maybe add like some type of chorus or some type of pitch effect, something to kind of, make it fun. So we have this pitch block right here. Maybe we go for the wham setting. Now when we add that second line, we're going to need to choose our input and output. So we have input 1, output 1, 2. And if for some reason you don't know what's plugged in, one thing that's really cool, you can swipe down and it's going to show you what's plugged in. We have input 1 plugged in, and then we can change mic and instrument types depending on what we're plugging into. So now we have this pitch effect. Maybe another modulation type effect. We go into modulation, we have all of these different options, flangers, tremolos, choruses. They're like vintage chorus. And maybe we can be crazy and run another delay. We'll go, or a delay, we'll go ping pong. And I'm gonna go for now we also have a tap tempo here, which is efficient. We have kind of like a nice reverby, pitched delay, kind of clean sound. The saving process is really easy. All you gotta do is hit this button right here. We're gonna make a preset name. We'll call this very squeaky clean. If you have big fingers, this is still a challenge, which is okay, squeaky. We're just gonna call it very clean. In the final version of the software, once this comes out, you're supposed to be able to create a hashtag to find your presets or to download other people's presets, which is really cool. So I'm just gonna change it to Dave D. Now, if I go into search mode and I type my name, Dave D, I find all my presets. Overall, as somebody who really kind of thrives in the studio setting, the Quad Cortex really has served me well over the last week. The sounds are incredible. It's incredibly easy to use, and it's very fun to make presets. I found myself just sitting there for hours just making new presets and having fun with actually being able to have those levels of control that you don't normally have. I'm somebody who comes from the fractal world of modelers. That's what I've used in my studio for a very long time. This offered a level of control that I haven't had before, and I'm really excited to see what Neural DSP does with all their future updates. They're always updating their current plugins, so I can see that when this is available, they're probably going to be able to do that on a similar level. What's even better about that is that when you go into your settings, you're able to connect straight to the Wi-Fi to download updates right away. You can also back up your presets to the cloud, which is great. Talking about like my experiences with a device like this as a musician who has toured internationally in full time, somebody who is in the studio a lot, there's a lot of advantages that I can see to a unit like this. Number one, the build quality is fantastic. The unit is solid aluminum, it's super, super sturdy, and it fits inside your backpack. You can run up to 4 players through it at once. So if you're a band that's doing a flyout date and you don't know what the situation's going to be looking like when you get to the venue, this is a no-brainer. Super, super easy to set up, run your ins and outs, and connect to a laptop that may be running your backing tracks to do all your MIDI switching. It's a very, very easy device to learn. And anybody who uses today's modern technology is going to have a really easy time going through making presets, kind of discovering the neural community that they've built around this. It's very easy and it's very fun to use. The rotary switches are really smart. The layout system for changing between preset mode, scene mode, stomp mode is awesome. So for me, it's a unit that makes a ton of sense. And I think that especially with the level of effects and modeling and also the neural capture that exists all within this one unit, I think it's an incredible device. And I'm really, really excited to see more of what they do as we get further and further along with it. I spent some time even playing through some of the stock neural captures that were in the factory library, and they're really good. I've owned a bunch of amplifiers before. I've played through a bunch of different amps in the studio, and so some of like the higher end boutique metal amps, like the Fryette, for example, they have this fried signature 10s. This preset, this neural capture sounds really awesome. I've had so much fun with this thing so far. It makes me not want to give it back to marketing. I would say especially so. A lot of us, maybe throughout 2020, I've felt like a little bit uninspired, especially sitting in the studio trying to come up with things. And a few hours with this, and I just could not turn it off. It was so much fun to just be able to like really throw myself into a new system that offers tons of flexibility and just overall a great sounding platform. So I'm really, really excited. I'm on the list to get one impatiently. waiting. So one of the things that I found is that, watching a ton of other people's reviews on the platform is that these things can get really overhyped, and then people feel like maybe they underdeliver. And I think that the main thing is that we live in this world where technology is just constantly being updated. New iPhone, new Android, new Tesla, just new all the time. But to really like step back and actually look at what a device offers, There's nothing like this. Right now, you have a lot of other competitor products, which are all great products. But overall, like the actual functionality of being able to go in, change presets, save things to the cloud, make quick changes, do all that, there's nothing that competes. And I really think that, especially with their track record so far of updating plugins, that once this is finally out, I think they're going to do a great job in providing more value, because I think that's what everybody is looking for. It's just, why is this better than what I have currently? And I think that the answer is it's just different. But there's nothing that offers, the capture system, a touch screen, amazing modeling, incredible amounts of processing power, all in one unit. I mean, we're at 30% right now on this modern power preset that they made. We're running 4, 8, 9, 12, 16, we're running 17, 18 blocks, and it's only at 30% CPU. Everything, at least, that I've owned, tried, and used, there's always a pretty low ceiling in being able to do complex routing like this. There's definitely fair points in things that maybe they could have more ready of, but until the product is actually out for everyone, I'm gonna say that the current place where the software is very impressive. Amps sound very good, effects sound really good. So if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can leave a comment down below. And if you want to connect with somebody who loves this stuff, you can hit me up here at Sweetwater or your other Sweetwater sales engineers. We're happy to help and talk gear with you, because we all obsess over the same thing. I'm Dave Dunsire, guitar player, Sweetwater sales engineer, and super excited about this, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, you can check out more content right over here. Or you can start at sweetwater.com for all of your musical instrument and pro audio needs.